Look up at the sky. What do you see? Blue, bright, clear, obvious blue. Now walk down to the beach and look at the ocean. Same thing. Blue. It's everywhere. It feels like one of the most basic, fundamental facts of being alive on Earth. Except, for most of human history, nobody saw it. And I don't mean they looked at it and called it something else. I mean they literally could not see it. To our ancestors, the sky wasn't blue. The sea wasn't blue. The color just didn't exist. Which sounds completely ridiculous, I know. How do you miss the sky? But this isn't a theory about ancient humans being colorblind. Their eyes worked perfectly. This is about how your brain does something terrifyingly weird when you don't have a word for a color. It makes it invisible. Okay, so this whole mystery started with a guy reading old poetry. In 1858, a British politician named William Gladstone, who, by the way, would later become the Prime Minister of the UK, was reading Homer's Odyssey. And because he was a massive classics nerd, he started paying attention to how Homer described colors. And things got weird. Fast. Homer's descriptions weren't just poetic. They were wrong. He described the ocean as wine dark. Wine, not blue. A dark, muddy red. He described sheep as violet. Honey was green. And the sky? He called it bronze or iron. Never blue. So Gladstone, being a very meticulous guy, decided to count every single color reference in the entire book. He counted and counted. Black was mentioned about 200 times. White, 100 times. Red, 15 times. Yellow and green, less than 10 times each. Blue, 0. Not once. In an epic poem set entirely on the Mediterranean Sea, Under the Sky, the word blue is completely missing. Gladstone wrote a huge paper arguing that Homer and all ancient Greeks were simply colorblind. He thought human eyes hadn't evolved to see the full spectrum yet. Except, that wasn't it at all. A few years later, a German philologist named Lazarus Geiger read Gladstone's work and wondered, is this just a Greek thing? So he checked. He read the ancient Indian Vedas. He read the Hebrew Bible. He read ancient Norse sagas. He read ancient Chinese legends. And he found the exact same thing. No word for blue. The Quran? No blue. The Talmud? No blue. The ancient Chinese texts? They talked about the black sky and the white clouds, but never a blue sky. But then Geiger noticed something even more mind-blowing. Every single language on Earth, no matter where it developed, learns color words in the exact same order. Every single one. First, a language creates words for black and white, or rather, dark and light. Once they have those, the next word they create is always red, the color of blood, the color of fire. It's the most high-stakes color in nature. After red, languages develop a word for yellow, then green. Sometimes green comes before yellow, but they are always next. And then, after all of that, comes blue. Blue is always, without exception, the last color to get a name. So why did humans take so long to name blue? Well, because in the natural world, blue is a ghost. Think about it. Forget modern dyes, plastics, and blue jeans. If you walk into a forest 10,000 years ago, how many blue things are you actually going to find? Almost none. There are no blue mammals, no blue reptiles, and even the things we think are blue, like bluebirds or blue butterflies, aren't actually blue. If you grind up a blue jay's feather, the powder is brown. Their feathers are just microscopic prisms that refract light to look blue. There is no blue pigment in them. Plants? You've got blueberries, which are actually more purple than blue, and a few rare flowers that you can't eat. You don't hunt blue. You don't forage blue. You don't need blue to survive. And because humans are practical creatures, if we don't need to talk about something, we don't name it. If we don't name it, our brains don't bother processing it as something distinct. Okay, but you're probably thinking, wait, what about the sky? It's right there. It covers half the world. How do you ignore that? But here's the thing. The sky isn't a blue object. It's just the sky. It's light. It's air. To an ancient human, the sky was just white on a bright day, black at night, and maybe red at sunset. They didn't see the sky as a blue ceiling because they had no reason to compare it to anything else. If you think that sounds crazy, a linguist named Guy Deutscher actually tested this on his own daughter. He raised her normally, but made a strict rule. He and his wife would never, ever mention the color of the sky. One day, when she was old enough, they were outside on a perfectly clear day. Deutscher pointed up and asked her, "What color is that?" She looked up. She got confused. She didn't say blue. First, she said it had no color. It was just white. It took her weeks of looking at it to finally decide that it was maybe sort of blue. Her brain didn't automatically classify the sky as blue until she had the language and the prompt to do it. This is where the science gets really trippy, because this isn't just about labels. It actually changes what your eyes see. A researcher named Jules Davidoff traveled to Namibia to study the Himba tribe. The Himba language has plenty of words for colors, but they don't have a word for blue. They group blue and green under the same word, Zuzu. Davidoff sat them down in front of a computer screen. He showed them a circle of 12 squares. 11 of them were bright green. One of them was bright, vivid blue. If you or I looked at that screen, the blue square would leap out at us instantly. It's obvious. But the Himba? They couldn't find it. They stared at the screen. They hesitated. When they finally guessed, they made mistakes. It took them a long time to point to the blue square. To their brains, that blue square was just another green one. Because their language didn't draw a line between blue and green, their visual system didn't draw one either. But then, Davidoff did the reverse. He showed them 11 green squares, and one square that was a slightly different shade of green. A shade so close that to you and me they look absolutely identical. I would bet my life savings they are the same color. The Himba pointed to the different green square almost instantly. Because their language has distinct, highly specific words for different shades of green, their brains had trained their eyes to see variations that we are completely blind to. Their language had literally rewired their vision. Which brings us to the only ancient civilization that actually saw blue. The Egyptians. They were the only ones who had a word for blue. And they are also the only ancient culture that figured out how to manufacture blue dye, the famous Egyptian blue. As soon as they could make it, they needed to trade it, write about it, and paint with it. So they named it. And once they named it, they saw it. Your eyes are just cameras. They collect raw data, wavelengths of light, and send them to the back of your brain. But your brain doesn't just show you the raw feed, it filters it, it packages it. And the primary tool it uses to build that package is language. If you don't have a word for something, your brain file compresses it. It merges it with whatever is closest. Blue becomes green. The sky becomes white. So it makes you wonder, what else is floating right in front of our faces today? What details, what colors, what parts of reality are we staring at right now that we are completely blind to, simply because we haven't invented the words to see them yet?